Bobby Musgrave didn't hold back when addressing the depth chart decisions that left Shedeur Sanders buried at fourth string for most of the season. His tone wasn't just frustrated, it was revealing. In a press conference that quickly became more than just routine, Musgrave not only defended Sanders' progress, but subtly dismantled Kevin Stefanski's judgment, calling out the systemic flaws that stunted the rookie's early development. By placing blame on preseason habits and neglecting in-game reps, the coaching staff created an uphill battle for a player who has shown nothing but improvement when actually given it.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Instead of nurturing raw potential, Stefanski's handling reinforced old-school rigidity, and Musgrave wasn't afraid to say as much. Sanders' emergence has little to do with organizational guidance and everything to do with his own grit. The real story isn't about how polished he looks now. It's about how far he's come despite the odds. While Tommy Rees's schemes finally gave him the space to succeed, the resistance from the top exposed a deeper disconnect in how talent is evaluated and developed within the Browns. Musgrave's critique isn't just about one quarterback. It's about a culture failing to recognize and support future leaders until it's almost too late. The Cleveland Browns are no strangers to chaos, but what just went down in that Bobby Musgrave press conference? That wasn't just a post-game chat. That was a full-on organizational call-out, masked in measured tones and QB jargon. And if you read between the lines, it's clear Musgrave just torched Kevin Stefanski without even saying his name. This all revolves around rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders, who, despite having clear franchise-level potential, was buried so deep on the depth chart he was basically quarterback in the parking lot. Fourth string. Not second, not third, fourth. And why? Because of some shaky preseason reads? Because of pocket drifting and habits that every single rookie has to shake off? Please. From the outside, it looked like your typical rookie benching. But internally, according to Musgrave, it was anything but. During his recent press conference, Musgrave peeled back the curtain just enough to reveal what's really going on inside that Browns building. And it's not pretty. He didn't rant. He didn't throw chairs. He didn't need to. What Musgrave did was something far more calculated. He laid out Shedeur's progress, praised the people who helped him get there, and then very pointedly did not include Kevin Stefanski in that list. Instead, all the credit went to offensive coordinator Tommy Rees, and more importantly, to Shedeur himself for grinding through the mess. The facts are clear. Shedeur Sanders got better because he worked for it. Musgrave said it straight up. Shedeur's growth in footwork, rhythm, game awareness, it came from sheer work ethic, not some coaching overhaul. In fact, Musgrave subtly made the case that if anything, the coaching staff cost Stefanski cough, actively slowed his progress by not giving him reps. Reps he clearly needed, reps that are essential for rookies. And yet, Shedeur made it work anyway. In clutch moments, in real game reps, he showed poise, accuracy, mobility, decision-making that screamed future franchise quarterback. All the traits were there, but the opportunities, not so much. And now we know why. Musgrave took a scalpel to the narrative that's been floating around for weeks, that Shedeur's early season struggles were a sign he wasn't ready. Nope. According to Musgrave, those struggles were textbook rookie adjustments. He even named drop John Elway as a point of comparison. That's right, John freaking Elway, the gold standard of raw QB talent with early growing pains. Because yeah, pocket drifting and hesitation are normal. You know what's not normal? Using that as an excuse to leave a kid on the bench while your offense gasped for air. And this wasn't just about defending a player. This was about exposing the dysfunction. Because buried in Musgrave's praise for Rees and Shedeur was a glaring omission. Stefanski, the head coach, the guy who should be leading this development. Instead, he got sidestepped harder than a pass rusher. Not even a breadcrumb of credit. Let's be real. When a position coach skips over the head coach in a praise tour, that's not a slip-up. That's a statement. Musgrave made it crystal clear that Shedeur has improved because of the reps he finally started getting after being overlooked and essentially sidelined for most of the season. And that falls squarely on Stefanski. It was a decision to bury a high-upside rookie. His call to stick to rigid preseason evaluations and ignore what could have been real-time development. Now, Musgrave didn't throw Stefanski under the bus outright, but he definitely parked it right behind him. And this whole press conference, it wasn't just about the past. It was a warning shot for the offseason. Because when Musgrave said, "We'll get to the crux of the matters in the offseason," he might as well have said, "We're about to have some very uncomfortable meetings." That's not a casual comment. That's a line you drop when the real conversations haven't started yet, when the blame pie is still in the oven. And honestly, it's overdue. Because this isn't just about one rookie quarterback. This is about how the Browns manage talent, how they evaluate players, how they trust or don't trust their developmental process. Let's not forget, Shedeur wasn't some walk-on long shot. This is a quarterback with elite-level vision, touch, and maturity. A guy who can throw on the run, make tight window throws, extend plays, read defenses. If you're the Browns, how do you look at that kind of raw material and decide, yeah, let's shelve this until further notice? You don't, unless your system is broken, unless your priorities are out of whack. And that's the bigger takeaway here. Musgrave's comments weren't just about one player. They were about the culture, about a coaching staff that seems more interested in protecting egos and developing talent. A staff that used preseason habits as an excuse to hold back a guy who clearly needed real game snaps to improve. And when Shedeur did get those snaps, he delivered, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but with real signs of growth. Real flashes of the guy who could lead a franchise. The guy who could have been further along if the people in charge had just given him a chance. Instead, it took months of wasted time, four-string exile, and internal lobbying before the kid even got a shot. And now the QB coach is airing it out in public. That's not how a well-run team operates. That's how a dysfunctional one does damage control. And it's not even subtle. Musgrave didn't just toss Stefanski's development strategy in the trash. He lit the whole bin on fire. He propped up Tommy Reed like the only adult in the room, praising his scheming and quarterback-friendly play design. Meanwhile, Stefanski, completely sidelined in his own house. The message couldn't be louder. If Shedeur Sanders turns into a franchise quarterback, it'll be in spite of how this team handled him, not because of it. And the part that should concern every Browns fan, this kind of internal contradiction, where the OC is respected, the QB coach is fuming, and the head coach is being openly bypassed, isn't just bad optics. It's a sign of deeper fractures. Fractures that won't heal just because the season ends. So what happens next? Well, if Musgrave's hint about off-season conversations is any indication, we're in for some fireworks. Because you can't keep burying rookies and ignoring your own internal voices forever. At some point, the cracks become impossible to ignore. Will Stefanski double down on his philosophy? Will someone in the building finally say, "We can't afford to mismanage another young quarterback"? Because let's be honest, Cleveland doesn't exactly have a sparkling history of grooming QBs. And they cannot afford to fumble this one. Because Shedeur Sanders, he's worth the investment. He's already shown more in his short opportunities than some backups do in entire seasons. The arm strength, the presence, the flashes of greatness. It's all there. But potential means nothing if it's not cultivated, if it's not respected. And right now, the biggest threat to Shedeur's success isn't his mechanics. It's the people deciding when and how he plays. Musgrave sees it. Fans are starting to see it. And if the Browns front office doesn't see it soon, they might lose more than just a season. They might lose their best shot at long-term stability under center. If you're tired of watching this kind of dysfunction derail talented players, you're not alone. So let's talk about it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Musgrave out of line or just brutally honest? Do you think Shedeur's been set up to succeed or sabotaged by a broken system? Make sure to hit like, share with your fellow football watchers who love drama as much as deep passes. And of course, subscribe for more breakdowns of the NFL's wildest behind-the-scenes chaos. Because if this is what's coming before the offseason, just wait. Oh, we're not done yet. Because if you thought Bobby Musgrave's comments were just a passionate defense of a rookie, think again. That press conference, that was a controlled explosion. The kind of moment where a veteran coach, who's seen every shade of NFL dysfunction, decides he's done playing politics and starts talking real. Musgrave didn't name names, but he didn't need to. Every single line was laced with intent. When he credited Shedeur's development to grit and work ethic, not coaching schemes, that wasn't motivational pep talk. That was a direct response to a season's worth of mismanagement. And when he turned around and applauded Tommy Rees's offensive schemes, that wasn't just an attaboy to a colleague. That was a message. There are people on the staff doing their jobs right, and Kevin Stefanski isn't one of them. Let's back up a second. Shedeur Sanders wasn't supposed to even sniff the field this season. Fourth string, remember? That's usually reserved for training camp bodies and clipboard holders. But through injuries, incompetence, or just plain necessity, Sanders started to get a few snaps. And when he did, the entire tone shifted. The mechanics weren't perfect. The reads weren't always clean. But you could see it. That spark. That intangibles. And you know who else saw it? Musgrave. That's why he's so fired up. Because he's been watching this kid grind in silence while the organization treated him like a walk-on. And now, when the results are undeniable, Musgrave's drawing a line in the sand. Shedeur didn't suddenly wake up good. He was always good. The problem was the people who refused to let him show it. Musgrave hammered the point home again and again. Growth through reps. Learning through live fire. That's how quarterbacks evolve. Not by riding the bench. Not by getting ignored because of preseason drifting. Newsflash, every rookie does that. Especially in a league where defenders are faster. Schemes are more complex. And the pressure is suffocating. You don't learn by sitting. You learn by doing. And yet, the Browns coaching staff, led by Stefanski, chose to treat Sanders like an afterthought. Like he needed to be fixed before he could even be trusted to take a snap. Musgrave's not buying that. And neither should anyone. Let's not pretend this is some isolated disagreement either. This is a clear sign of internal division. When a coach praises one colleague while quietly snubbing the boss, that's not subtle. That's a chess move. And Stefanski just got checked. The silence around Stefanski is louder than any direct criticism, because in the NFL, respect gets spoken in the acknowledgments, the nods, the shared credit. Musgrave gave all that to Reed. None of it to Stefanski. Not a whisper. Not even a throwaway. We're all on the same page. That's calculated. That's intentional. And it raises the bigger question. What exactly is Stefanski? Outside, it looks like it's rooted in overcaution and rigid hierarchies. If you're not ready, you don't play. But who defines ready? And what happens when that definition is just an excuse to stick with the familiar? Musgrave clearly believes the only way to get ready is by playing, and Shedeur proved him right. Every rep mattered. Every fourth quarter drive, every broken play, every sideline conversation. It's all part of the process. A process Stefanski short-circuited by keeping him in the... And we have to talk about the optics here. Because if you're Shedeur Sanders, you've got to be wondering, why was I ever fourth string? Not just third. Fourth. That's a slap in the face. Especially when guys with less upside were getting reps while you were running scout team drills. That's not just a depth chart issue. That's a philosophical failure. It's also a massive risk. Because let's be honest, quarterbacks aren't just players. They're investments. You spend time, money, and resources developing them. And when you mishandle that development, the return on investment plummets. Fast. Shedeur isn't just another guy. He's a brand, a presence, a player with serious upside and just enough flash to become a franchise icon if things go right. But instead of nurturing that, the Browns coaching staff chose to suppress it until Musgrave and eventually the play on the field forced the issue. And now that the curtain's been pulled back, it's clear. The only reason Shedeur Sanders is even in the conversation is because someone inside that building went to bat for him. Someone like Bobby Musgrave, who's now made it very clear he's tired of watching talented players get lost in the shuffle. The press conference wasn't a rant. It was a controlled demolition. Musgrave wasn't just backing his guy. He was exposing the way things really work behind closed doors. He painted a picture of a system where preseason judgments outweigh in-season development, where coaching egos overrule player potential, and where rookie mistakes are used as excuses to bench, not teach. And here's the kicker. Shedeur is doing everything right. He's not whining. He's not pointing fingers. He's just working, grinding, learning, adapting. All the things you want from a young quarterback. And it's still not enough to earn organizational trust. At that point, it's not about the player. It's about the culture. The mindset that says rookies must be perfect before they're allowed to fail. That's not how you develop talent. That's how you waste it. Musgrave's press conference cracked that culture wide open. And now, all eyes are on the offseason. Because those conversations he mentioned, they're going to be brutal. Someone's going to have to answer for why one of the most promising young QBs in the league spent the majority of the season buried behind a depth chart that made no football sense. Speaking, is it Stefanski's stubbornness? Is it a lack of communication between coaches? Is it just organizational fear masquerading as caution? Either way, it's not sustainable. Now that the Browns want to finally break out of the cycle of mediocrity and quarterback infusion that's defined them for years. Because here's the truth. Shedeur Sanders has it. The presence, the mindset, the tools, all the raw material is there. And if the Browns aren't careful, he'll end up proving that somewhere else. And when that happens, it won't just be a bad look. It'll be a full-blown indictment of the people who were supposed to believe in him from day one. So here we are, another season, another storm in Cleveland. But this time, the warning signs are coming from inside the house. A respected coach just went public with his frustrations. A promising quarterback is finally getting a shot, months too late. And the head coach? He's got a full-blown internal revolt brewing under his nose. It's not about one bad call. It's about a pattern. A system that's more reactive than proactive. More defensive than developmental. And unless something changes fast, the Browns would be on the verge of letting another generational talent slip through their fingers. And let's not pretend this is going to blow over. When a seasoned quarterback coach like Bobby Musgrave essentially walks into a press conference and says, "We'll talk in the offseason," what he really means is, someone's job is on the line. That's not coach speak. That's a veiled threat. A signal to the front office and the fans that what's been going on behind closed doors hasn't just been frustrating. It's been, and the worst part, it was avoidable. Shedeur Sanders didn't need to be rescued. He needed to be given a fair shot. That's it. Let the kid develop. Let him get his feet wet. Let him make the mistakes every rookie quarterback makes. Instead, they box him in, pushed him to the bottom of the depth chart, wrote him off before he'd even stepped into a meaningful snap. And now that he's slowly proving everyone wrong, the cracks are showing, and Musgrave just threw a spotlight on all of them. Let's talk about the depth chart optics again, because it's just too ridiculous to ignore. Fourth string, not third, not battling for second. Fourth, that's not a football move. That's a political one. That's what you do when someone doesn't fit your system. Or worse, your image of what a quarterback should look like. But football isn't about image. It's about performance. And when Shedeur finally got a few crumbs of playing time, he showed that he wasn't just serviceable. He was ready to be developed. And here's the irony. While Stefanski was benching him based on preseason concerns, Musgrave and Tommy Ree were quietly putting in the real work, refining footwork, breaking down film, building confidence. So by the time Shedeur was finally tossed into the fire, he didn't burn. He adapted. That's not luck. That's preparation. That's coaching. Just not from the... Musgrave made sure to drive that point home. His praise for Tommy Ree wasn't just about play calling. It was about creating a system that helped Shedeur succeed. A system Stefanski, for whatever reason, didn't or wouldn't embrace. And you can feel the weight of that disconnect. It's not just a coaching disagreement. It's a fundamental rift in philosophy. One guy sees a long game, the slow build, the reps and more reps. The other guy is clinging to a strict hierarchy and clout-based evaluations. Guess which one develops quarterbacks? And this matters beyond Shedeur. Because if your staff can't align on something as critical as quarterback development, what else are they not seeing eye to eye on? How are draft picks being evaluated? Who's calling the shots on offensive identity? If one coach is saying, this kid's got franchise potential, and another is saying, he's not ready That's not a minor difference. That's an organizational identity crisis. The result? A wasted half season. A young quarterback being treated like a liability when he could have been gaining real game experience. A team that's already notorious for quarterback instability just adding to the list. And now it's all coming to the surface. The fans are watching. The media is watching. And worst of all for the Browns, so are the players. Because nothing spreads faster in an NFL locker room than the sense that someone's being treated unfairly. And when your QB room starts feeling like a political minefield instead of developmental lab, that's when problems start compounding. Musgrave lit the fuse. He didn't yell. He didn't rant. But he said what needed to be said. Shedeur was mismanaged. His development was delayed. And the guy steering the ship? Silent. Absent. Completely uncredited. So where does this go? Well, that off-season reckoning Musgrave mentioned? That's not just a conversation. It's going to be a decision point. Someone's going to have to answer for why the most promising young quarterback in the building spent most of the season as a ghost. Someone's going to have to explain why it took internal pushing, public pushing, to even give him a shot. And depending on how that conversation goes, it could be more than just a quarterback getting shuffled. It could be the coaching staff itself. Because if Shedeur Sanders pans out, and all signs say he will, the Browns better hope they're not remembered as a team that almost benched their future into oblivion. Let us know what you think. Was Musgrave speaking truth or just stirring the pot? Should Stefanski be on the hot seat, or is this just typical rookie year chaos? Hit that like button. If you're here for the drama, drop a comment below with your take. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's shaping up to be one hell of an offseason in Cleveland.